sun is trying to kill me, y'all. It's morning time, and I've got all the blinds closed and everything, but I'm like, I have direct sunlight on my poor little retinas, and it's trying to kill me. But we will soldier on. It's been a while. It's been a month and 3 days, to be precise. And that was completely unintentional. I have been writing full time, so that's one of the reasons that I have been separated from you for so long. But at the same time, my computer decided to have a little meltdown, and it got so slow and so sluggish for no apparent logical reason that I could ascertain. And so I've spent many an evening on the phone with some of my friends who are a little bit more tech savvy than I am. And I've got a new operating system now, and we've upgraded all my video software, and we figured out some things that were clogging up the works and fixed stuff. So I'm back, and I missed you. Did you miss me? But this first video is one that I was trying to make a couple of weeks ago. And I finally had 2 cycles with these, so I feel qualified to give you some review advice and experience stuff about base and liner type pads. And I went into this wanting to try a bunch of different types, and what I settled on was the Lunapad brand. This is a Lunapad. And the Sckoon Organics brand. This is a Sckoon Organics cloth menstrual pad. And I'm going to tell you exactly which ones I ordered, talk to you about cost, and talk to you about what using these was like, how it was different, that sort of thing. Because this type of pad, which has, you know, a base and a removable absorbent layer that you're supposed to change out the absorbent layer rather than the entire pad. This is the first type that most people are going to encounter when they start doing internet research about cloth menstrual pads, because most of the larger companies selling them do put out a product that functions this way. And so, I mean, you know, it's a huge part of the market, and it's a huge part of the questions that beginners have. So we're going to get into these as soon as I come back, because I forgot my beverage again. I'll be right back. This new version of my video capture, oh, I'm not liking it. It has this thing that sounds like a siren that goes off to tell you that the camera's about to turn on, and it's just, you know, it's like, don't hit me. Not a fan. I like my old version. I want it back, but it wasn't working. Okay. Anyway, the first one I want to talk to you about is the Lunapad. Lunapad is something that most people are familiar with. When they first start looking on the internet, Lunapads comes up at the top. And that's because they are one of the larger, more successful companies, and they're trusted. You know, their product is good. This is a 10-inch maxi pad, which I picked because it's their basic menstrual care product, and it's 10 inches long. I paid US $16.99 for this. So this is a $17 pad, and it comes with this base. This is all one piece, but this part here in the middle feels like it has something absorbent in it, like maybe it's just exactly one of these liners sewn onto it. And then it said that it had a leak-resistant or waterproof kind of layer in here, and it feels like it does, but definitely not in the wings. It's only here in the middle, but again, that's fine. I found that whatever they have in there, it works really well, because this is definitely a pad that I would have had leaks with had it not had a leak-resistant piece in there somewhere. And when you purchase this, it comes, you'll get this piece, and you'll get one of these, which is a liner. It's just another piece of absorbent material. And the idea is that you would buy multiples of these, and you could stack them up to accommodate your flow, however many you needed. And they tuck into these little purple rickrack bands. And of course they have several different designs and colors, so if you just really hate this one, they have other ones available. So anyway, it goes in like that. And then you tuck it in on this side as well, which looks a little fiddly on camera, but when you're actually sitting there and doing it, it's not that bad. Okay. So this is the thing all put together, and then you snap it around your underwear, thusly, like so. So this is how it sits. The tag didn't bother me. It gets tucked under. It's flopping around in the video, but it's really not obtrusive, and it's very soft. Okay, so this is what an assembled Lunapad looks like when you're wearing it. And I found that even though this is very soft, it was thicker than most of my all-in-one pads are. I'd fold it in half and show you, but I really don't get that. I don't see what you're supposed to get out of that. That doesn't really show you anything. So, you know, this is kind of what you're looking at while it's sitting in your underwear, and it is thicker than most of my all-in-ones, and I felt it when I was wearing it. I was aware of the fact that I was wearing a pad all day, but it wasn't uncomfortable at all, and I was concerned that these would be uncomfortable, but they were not at all. However, that said, I didn't really feel like these are terribly absorbent. I think that I would have been just as well off wearing just this without this, because I mean it soaked through immediately. I mean, almost, I'd say I checked probably about a half an hour after I was wearing this, and it was already soaked through, and it was already soaked through this part. But, you know, it spreads out throughout the day as you're wearing it, or throughout the hours that you have it on. And whatever the leak proof is in here, it's very good, because it didn't leak on me. But I feel like whatever they're using for the absorbent layers, it's just too porous. It didn't really absorb for me. Basically, it was just a conduit to go down into the pad. So I didn't feel like they were terribly absorbent, and I've had much more confidence-inspiring absorbency with the other products I've tried. But one of the biggest benefits to this pad is these teeny tiny little snaps. You see these? I ride my bicycle. I think I've mentioned that in some of my previous videos, that is my preferred method of outdoor exercise. And these little slim snaps, they're not nearly as bad about poking you in the lady bits as the larger cam snaps, the plastic ones that you'll find are the most commonly used in the all-in-one, and the ones that you make for yourself. Cam snaps are quite popular, but these little trim metal snaps are great. Now, the Lunapads come with these 2 snaps on them, but honestly, in order to snap it on this second one, when you have it down in your underwear, it would end up being like this. I honestly don't think they needed 2 snaps. I think the second one's kind of superfluous. But that's just me. Other people may find that very utilitarian indeed. So there are 2 different snaps on the back. I don't know, it's really well made. This has been washed probably about 5 times, and you'll notice they have the surged edge here. Let's see if I can get that closer to the camera so you can see how it's constructed. So there's no turning and top stitching on this. It's just the one piece with a surged edge so that it won't fray in your washer. And this has been washed in a regular agitation washer and then dried in an electric dryer after having been soaked in a sink. You can see the method that I use to clean my pads, well, to stain treat them after I do that process in my video. And maybe I'll link it below. The How to Wash Your Cloth Pads Without Getting Stains video. I did that process on these, and then they go in the washing machine with my regular laundry, and then they get dried in the electric dryer. That's happened to this pad probably 5 or 6 times, and it's still basically in brand new condition. Now, with all surged edge pads, you're going to get this frayed look to it. It's working as intended. It's working as designed. The surged edge is trimmer. It tends to be a little slimmer than a turn and top stitch edge. So it's personal preference, but they're very well made. So I will say that. So this cost $17. The absorbency, not terribly impressed. It is thicker than all of my all-in-one pads, and I was aware I was wearing it, but it was quite comfortable. And whatever they use for leak barrier works really well, because this thing, like I said, I mean, it leaked through almost immediately, but it didn't leak onto my clothing. So I would say they're definitely comfortable. The idea is, you know, the concept is convenient, and they do dry a lot faster than an all-in-one heavy pad would have, because the all-in-one heavy has all the layers in one piece, whereas this gets washed separately, so it dries quicker. So especially if you're an air dry person, the basin liner type in general, and the Lunapad in particular, these came dry really fast. But again, I think the reason they dry really fast is the same reason they don't absorb very well. So anyway, let's move on to the Sckoon, because I really, really liked the Sckoon pad. And we'll talk about that. I tried 2 different kinds and didn't care for one, but loved the other one. So let's get into them. I knew I wanted to try Lunapads, but then I had to decide what else was I gonna try to do a video on the basin liner types. And I really like my Sckoon cup, and I have looked covetously at the Sckoon Organics cotton products since I started shopping for the Sckoon cup. So I decided I'm going to give the Sckoon ones a try. And the idea was I wanted to spend the same dollar amount on all of them, because I wanted to show you what you could get for, you know, the typical price from all of these. And of course, the Sckoon company is no doubt aware of the Lunapad company and their products, and so they are, you know, they compete price-wise. So this cost exactly the same as my 10-inch Lunapad cost me. So this was also $16.99, so $17. And this is their leak. Let me scroll over and see real quick. This is their no leak pad. This is a day pad, and it is 10 inches long. And the thing about the Sckoon is they shrink. This is organic cotton, unlike the Lunapad. Their organic product is a little more expensive. So again, I went for price comparison. That's how I chose which product to get from which company. And the Sckoon has two different, see, the sun is flashing on this, so you can't really see very well. But this is the Sckoon type of insert. It's just a white organic cotton trifold, and it has a thicker middle and the edges are softer so that you can fold it into three like this. And this is incredibly soft. This is like the kind of stuff you would wipe a baby's face with. It's very, very soft, and it's extraordinarily, it's a good knit. It's high quality cotton. I would say that the material used in the Sckoon brand, much higher quality than the materials used in the Lunapad. And the way that the Sckoon one works, instead of a rickrack band, you have this little pocket here. So this little guy gets tucked in here, and this feels like a really high quality t-shirt. That's what this feels like. And then this one, you stick in here, like so. And there is a leak-proof layer throughout the entire product. You can feel it. It's in the wings, and it's back here. And again, they have this little tag that they've attached to it. This one tended to be a little more unruly, but I never felt it. It never bugged me, but I couldn't get it to tuck in properly. The Sckoon Organics one, now I pre-washed everything I got, and then I measured them after I pre-washed them, and the Sckoons shrink. There is another product put out by Sckoon, which was also labeled as a 10-inch pad. It was called the Snap-On Day Pad. And that one, instead of having these little pockets, the absorbent layer comes and you snap it on. Okay, so the chocolate brown one that you see there on the bottom, that one was the Snap-On pad, and it just had that one lovely little band, and then the other side, the one you see on the right there, that snapped into the base. But it was too short, as opposed to tucking it into a pocket, and that's the big difference. Also, I liked them. They were really pretty. It was a chocolate brown. I've passed that one on because when I washed it, when I first received it, it was visibly smaller than this one, even though they were supposed to be the same length. And after I washed it and dried it that first time, it was only 8.5 inches long. This one, however, this white one, maintained its length. So this one is like 9 3/4 inch, so it's a 10-inch pad still. And the material, I cannot tell you how impressed I am with the quality of the material. It is absolutely fantastic stuff. In addition to which, it is extremely absorbent. I used this pad as many times as I could because I found it very, very comfortable, and also because the trifold in here, and you could probably squeeze 2 of them in there if you had a terribly heavy flow and you just really you wanted to have 2 of these. You could definitely do that. But I just, I have a relatively heavy cycle, and I didn't need it. I wore this about the same length of time as I wore any other cloth pads. And the only thing I would say is that because it is stark white, I did struggle with stain removal, but as you can see, they came out quite nice. On this one, I did have the problem, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the video that I did a long time ago talking about the buyer's guide and the concerns that I had buying a basin liner type. I was really concerned that this part would get stained and I would have to touch it, to take out the liner and put in a new one, with this being all soiled and everything. And that did happen, but it just really wasn't, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it was an inconvenience where you have to touch this when it's dirty to put in a clean liner. So basically, I've just decided that if I were to be using these, I would never do the switching them out. It's simply, for me, it's the convenience of this coming out so that, you have the confidence of knowing that everything on the inside is clean. You have the confidence of knowing that it's going to dry really fast. And it does. So I cleaned this. I did have to soak this through 2 sinkfuls of soaking to get all of the stains out, but I think that's just the stark white nature of the material. But it did come clean, as is evidenced here. So, yeah, I was able to use this exactly the same way I used all my other cloth pads, and it was extraordinarily comfortable. So of the 2 basin liner types that I tried, this was my Lunapad and this was my Sckoon, I found this one to be a far superior product. It is organic for the same price as the non-organic Lunapad. They're the same length. This does have a waterproof layer from wing to wing as opposed to just under the absorbent layers. And frankly, it was more comfortable and it absorbed just way better than the Lunapad. When I took this off, every time I used it, it never soaked through to this part. So this part of the pad never got stained behind this. This actually kept all of it absorbed in this part. It was never dirty here. Whereas with the Lunapad, every time I tried it, this was completely soaked through. So the only thing that saved me on this was the waterproof layer. But on this one, the waterproof layer was never even called upon to do its duty because this never soaked through. And I used it for the same length of time. So if you're going to choose a $17 product, I would recommend this one. And again, the only reason I would recommend that you use this one as opposed to the snap-on pad, which again, you don't have this to deal with, it just snaps onto the base, which I thought was going to be awesome. I was like, okay, then I don't have to fiddle with this. But for whatever reason, that one shrank so badly after I got it. Number one, when I first opened it, it wasn't 10 inches long like it said it was going to be. And number two, after I dried it, it was then like 8.5 inches long as opposed to 10. Whereas this one held its shape and size without shrinking too badly. So, oh, and again, on the Sckoon pad, you also have these very trim slimline snaps that also were quite comfortable on a bike. So now whenever this one is clean and I know I'm about to go get on my bicycle, I put this one on because I know it's going to be better and I won't have to shift around on my saddle to make sure that I'm not getting poked in the junk, you know. So anyway, of the 2, the Sckoon is definitely my favorite. The overall benefits are it dries faster, and for those of you who don't use an electric dryer, for those of you who hand wash or who hang to dry, these are going to be a really great option for you because then you won't ever have to worry that when you wake up in the morning, are any of them going to be dry for me to wear? They will be dry. That was, to me, just the biggest convenience of the basin liner type altogether. Let me go ahead and stop this here, and then I'm going to think of anything else I need to tell you about basin liner pads. Oh, I'm going to talk to you about the ones that I considered and why I didn't purchase them. Okay, so when I started doing this, I asked, you know, I told everybody way back when I ordered these that I was going to do a basin liner trial. Since I had never tried them before and since I have, you know, recommended against them in the past, I felt like it was only fair that I do a complete review and really give them a go. And people recommended Gladrags.com. I personally don't like that company name, and as you know, I have to tell you my opinion when I don't like words. I know that once upon a time women did use rag cloth for their menstrual needs, but I don't use rags. I use pretty things. That's not why I didn't purchase from that company, but I don't like that name. I just don't like calling them rags. Ugh, it's a harsh word, you know? But Gladrags.com is an excellent company. They have good products. They sell wet bags. They have information for days on their website. I'm glad that they're there. And there are a lot of people who've used their product and really like it. And there are a lot of people I know that when they sew handmade basin liner type pads, they resemble the Gladrags style. Sorry, the sun is killing me today. Whew. This is making me squint like this. I can't see. Gladrags. The only reason I didn't purchase from them, they also have a 10-inch-ish pad that was $16.99. And let me go over and look. It was called the Color Day Pad Plus for $16.99, and it is 10.5 inches long. The reason I didn't purchase from them is because I didn't particularly care for their fabric choices. They have a couple of solids and they had a couple of prints available, and those change periodically on the Gladrags site. But I had already spent, you know, $17 a piece on these two at that point. because these were the first two I looked at. And I was like, okay. So I was already up to, 35 plus shipping, after taxes and everything. And I was like, okay, I really wasn't prepared to spend $100 on this, and I wanted to look at everybody. And I didn't like any of them enough to spend $17 on them. And that's just personal preference from looking at them. Now, the difference between Gladrags and these two types is that instead of having, like the rickrack bands or the pockets like on the Sckoon, they have a pocket that opens the length of the pad, and then you tuck the liner in under the whole length of the pad. And that's the way they work. So they have the drying quickly advantage as well. I can't comment specifically on their product because I didn't use one, but that's the reason. It was simply aesthetics. It was simply what I didn't see one where I went, ooh, pretty. And that's why I didn't purchase from them. So there was no qualitative reason that I haven't tried them, and I may try them at some point in the future. And then the fourth company, I had several people very enthusiastically say, you've got to try New Moon pads. You have to try New Moon pads. And I went and I looked at New Moon Pad's website, and she has some beautiful things there. I say she because my understanding, and I could be wrong about this, my understanding is that it is a company run by a particular woman who makes these things. And she has a beautiful website. Her products are beautiful. There's lots of information about them and what she uses. There are two reasons that I did not purchase and review the New Moon Pads brand. And number one is I'm pretty sure they're all-in-one pads. If I'm wrong, you're welcome to correct me, please. But they look like all-in-one pads to me, and I wanted this to be a basin liner review. And then the other one is that I looked at her equivalent product to these, which is an 11-inch pad, and I believe it's called her medium or her New Moon pad. And she charges $24.95. And that is a price point that I'm just not willing to meet. To be perfectly frank, I consider $24.95 for an 11-inch reusable menstrual pad kind of an extortion. I really don't know. Maybe she's using products that I'm unaware of to make it that are super expensive or whatever, but I didn't note that she has lots of non-organics, just regular cotton fabrics and such, and that's not a price point I'm going to meet. But that is a choice that everybody has to make for themselves, and her product is very pretty. So I'm going to put the links for both Gladrags and New Moon pads down below. But again, the Gladrags was simply aesthetics. I didn't like any of the fabric choices that they had at the time that I was doing this. And then for the New Moon pads, I didn't think that they were basin liner types, and I thought that they were really, really expensive. So anyway, those were all of the ones that I looked at when I was going into this. I tried these two, really enjoyed them. The snap-on type, as long as you don't need a longer pad. The snap-on type, which comes from Sckoon, might be an option that you enjoy because it snaps rather than tucking into a bunch of pockets. That was nice, but it was just too short. After I washed and dried it, it came back to being 8.5 inches long, and that's too short for my comfort. So let's see, what else? All right, so overall, the disadvantages of a basin liner type is you do have to fiddle with these. They're not the convenience of just having one piece. You do have to fiddle with the absorbent layers being placed onto the base properly, but it's really not that big of a deal, especially if the benefits are something that really appeal to you. The other disadvantage is that they are bulkier. They are definitely not as slender as an all-in-one type pad typically is in my experience. The advantages are, I just really, and this, you could find these on all-in-ones too if it's something that you think of as these trimline metal snaps. Great for riding a bicycle. And they dry extremely quickly, and if you're somebody who doesn't use an electric dryer to dry your pads, that's definitely something that would be of an immediate and noticeable benefit to you, is the drying time is going to be much, much better. I found that they stain treated just as easily as my regular all-in-one pads. They wash well. They're high-quality products. They are a little bit more expensive, but if you think, you're going to wear this one all day instead of like I do with my all-in-ones, I can go through quite a few in a day. If you're just buying liners instead of a pad for each one, that might end up, coming out equivalent or even a little bit cheaper in the long run than buying all-in-one pads. So it just depends, personal preference, but I have to say I was confidence inspired by these two brands as far as the quality and how well they're holding up to washes and how comfortable they were. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that gave you a little bit more information if you were curious about buying these kinds of products. And I will put many links down below in the description. And I will see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.